Welcome back to Modals. It's been a while. It's been way too long. It's been over a year. And we don't want to take this long again. Unfortunately, things have happened, but we're back. Today we have Wednesday 13 of the Frankenstein Drag Queens from Planet 13. This is not something I usually do, but a person saw my Frankenstein video and kind of liked it and thought maybe I would be able to do this. So we're going to see what we can do with Wednesday 13. In case you didn't know, Wednesday 13 is the leader of a horror punk band called Frankenstein Drag Queens from Planet 13. The kit was produced around 2021 by a company called HorrorBizToys. It was a limited edition resin kit, limited to 100 copies. The one that I am working on in this video is kit number 7 out of 100. So here's the kit. Let's open it up and take a look. We've got our base, legs, and the torso, arms, head, and it basically just glues together. And we'll be doing that using some epoxy. The seam where the two pieces join is going to need some work. We're going to try to even that out and hide that seam. We've also got a couple little divots here from the casting process, apparently. But overall, it's a pretty impressive figure. A lot of detail. Let's see what we got. We got the instructions here. That's just pretty straightforward. Glue it together, prime it, and paint it. They have some suggestions for painting. That's probably what we're going to do. I'm going to try to do something special. Try to make him a little more interesting. A little more interesting. He's not interesting enough as he is. But we'll see what we can do. So let's get started gluing it together. Okay, modelers, so we've got him glued together, used some simple two-part epoxy, and I don't think he's coming apart anytime soon, so we're going to take care of these seams. He's got a seam all the way around him where he's joined together, and it's pretty bad actually. Here we've got a little piece broken off, so we can fix it. We've also got a seam here from the molding process that runs the whole length, both sides of his legs, so we'll sand those off. I'm going to fill this seam with some white Tamiya putty and we should be good. So let's get started. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, we'll try to fill some cracks. We got the Tamiya putty here. We'll give it a go. First coat, we'll start in the front here. This is probably the worst spot. So the instructions on the kit recommended epoxy putty to fill the gap there, which I guess probably would have been better. I don't know. I think the Tamiya putty will work okay. It's always worked very well for me as long as you keep the layers relatively thin. So that's what I've done here. I've ended up putting in probably 3 or 4 separate layers. A lot of sanding, starting out with heavier grit sandpaper, going up all the way to 5,000 grit to finish it off. And I think it worked out okay. And then with the layers of acrylic paint, acrylic varnish sealing over, I don't think we're going to have any problem with it cracking or any kind of issue. I said the Tamiya white putty has always worked well for me, and I think the crack wasn't too big and too deep to warrant using anything else. Still need some more sanding here. He's also got on his nose here, it looks like it's been filled in with some kind of clear putty, clear resin or something, and I'm gonna have to even that out. I don't think he has a clown nose on, but we will let this dry, do a little more sanding, see what we need to do before we prime it. But we're getting there. Shouldn't be long now. Okay, so after lots of sanding and filling and sanding and filling, I've added some Mr. Surfacer primer, and I think we're ready to paint. So, done a pretty good job of filling in the seam here all the way around. Most of the molding marks, there are a few remaining, but they're very faint. The legs look good. Inside the side, his arms, I've managed to get most of those sanded off. So we're going to go ahead and paint him. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to start with the boots. I'm going to be using, for the boots, I'm going to start with some just acrylic artist paint, Liquitex Mars Black, thin it with some Liquitex Airbrush Medium, work our way up to the top. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we got the boots painted. They look nice. They're nice and shiny. Looks good. Gonna need a little bit of touching up, but I'll deal with that later with a brush. So we're going to start on the legs now. So I'm going to use this Vallejo flat flesh, actually 70955. And mix it with a little just Vallejo flat white. I can't read the number. This bottle is so old the number is worn off, but it's just a Vallejo flat white. I've also got this Vallejo gaming color, which is dwarf skin, which is interesting. Maybe mix a little bit into that, give it a little bit of a pink shade, but done a little preliminary mixing here. I'm also mixing it with the just Liquitex matte medium. I usually use acrylic medium to mix acrylic colors or just add it to it. It makes it seem to flow a little better off the brush. So mixed a little bit up here. Okay, so here we go. See if we can do this now. Start down here. And it looks like we're going to need 2 coats. Also going to have to add some shading to his legs here. Make it look a little more realistic. Break up the forms a bit. Can't have it just all one solid color. Little more. Okay, don't go anywhere. Let's get this little more. Maybe a touch of that. This stuff is really strong though. You put some in and it definitely tends to overpower everything else. So, okay, I think that will work. And there we have him. I'm going to let this dry. Rinse this out. So I think he's going to be okay. Okay, we'll let this dry for a few minutes. Get back to it. A big part of this is going to be the stockings. Now, they recommend in the instructions to use clear black, like window tinting paint on his legs to simulate pantyhose, I guess it is. But all of the pictures and videos I've seen of this gentleman, he's wearing black fishnet stockings. And of course, I mean, why wouldn't he? You know, that would be perfect for his outfit. So I am going to try to recreate the black fishnet stockings. It's going to be a little bit more difficult, but I think if I'm successful, I think it'll really pay off, and I think it'll be very interesting. So that will be the next step. I will flesh out the legs a little more, put some shading, some different tones into that, and then we'll start on his stockings. So be right back. So I jumped a little bit ahead here. I did a little bit of shading on his one arm, or his one leg here. You can see it. Hopefully it will show up. I've added some tones, just, you know, some shadows where the muscle folds, some shadow in the back, just mixing it up a little bit. You can see it compared to the one on the right that is just the straight flesh tone. So I think it looks a little more interesting, a little more realistic. So we'll try to do the same thing for his other legs. So basically I'm using the same paints, diluting them a little bit, mixing them with a little more medium, and using a little more of this dwarf flesh here, dwarf skin color. So we're just putting them in the folds there, and then see if we can blend it in a little bit. Basically, I'm kind of using three tones. I'm using one for the shadows, and then one for the highlights, and then just the base color. Make it a little more interesting. This one, this side, okay, we do have one on this side here. A little more paint, a little more of this stuff. It's kind of hard to do this. I'm not used to doing this with acrylics. Acrylics dry so fast, it's kind of hard to make it work. A little bit of shadow under the patella here, under the kneecap. There we go. And go. Let's try it again. This paint's also drying up quickly in my little paint thingy. So back here, it's kind of hard to do with just the way it's structured, but let's see. Okay, then we need a little more light color here for the highlights. So maybe, yeah, that's a bit much. Okay. Try it again, yeah. Blend it a little bit. The kneecap. Yeah, light color coming all the way down. This, we got a nice little highlight here for the muscle. Make it a little more interesting than just solid color. Okay. How is that? Makes it look a little better. I'm going to have to touch this up, obviously, but that will come much later. There's lots more to do until we get to that point. Also need to work on the pants, so we will keep going onward. There we go. Well, let's continue. We've got the legs done. I think I will do the garter belt here. And I guess that's a garter. That's not a garter belt. That's a garter. And his pants, his shorts. While I've got the black mixed up, might as well use it. It's just going to dry up. So it's about ready to go. So here we go. I need to use another brush on this to get everything done before I attempt the stockings. The stockings is going to be a big deal. I hope it works. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we'll find out. It requires a steady hand. One false move and you've got paint on his thigh. No. Okay, so that will do for now for that one. Let's see if we can do another coat in the middle here. Maybe make this a little more solid. No, it's still not going to work. Okay. What we will do is finish off the edges of the pants. Okay, so there we have it. Maybe if I turn off this light, you can see it a little better. We'll have to give it another coat, obviously, but so far it's looking good. Looking regulation colors, exactly how it's supposed to look. So we will take a short break and come back to the next big part. Okay, so here's what we've got so far. We've got the legs and the pants painted. I got the garter here, needs a little touching up, but overall he looks pretty good. So I went to the fabric store and just bought some of this mesh stuff here, soft mesh. Just bought a little bit of it. It was cheap. It was like a couple bucks. But it's white, unfortunately. So I cut a piece off and just painted it with some black craft paint. So now we have a nice black mesh here, which looks to scale. It looks like it's going to work. Put it up against the skin there, and it looks pretty good. So I've got to wrap it around his two legs. That's going to be the tricky part. I think what I will do is just use some CA glue, some super glue, basically, in a couple different places, just to secure it. If I can kind of stick it up under the coat there, trim it to fit, then I'm going to use some clear varnish to hold it down. Actually, it'll just be some of the acrylic medium, but that will make a nice clear varnish. It will put like a clear coat over it. Hopefully that will hold it in place. It won't peel, it won't come up, and it will look nice. So that is the plan. So, need to get started. Here we go. So here's what I've got so far. I wasn't able to film this very well, unfortunately. So I was able to get the mesh stuck in up under the coat here. Trimmed it at the edge, the pants here, kind of wrapped it around. I actually started on this side, started in the back and wrapped it around this way. It was nice to have this little crevice back here to where I could start it and you can't really see it. So all of the angular cuts and adjustments and everything are in the back. So there's a little bit more touching up to do, but it should work out pretty well. We've also got one little spot here under his knee where I kind of had to overlap the fabric, but I think maybe, I don't know, I can take a look at cutting that out and replacing it. And then there's still some trimming to do around the edge of the boots here, around some of the edges. but overall it looks pretty good. Started on this side. I have used the same method, basically cut a piece of the mesh and put some of this, some tacky glue in here, some of this stuff here. It's water-based, basically kind of white glue. Was able to get that up in there, put the mesh in there. So I'm waiting for it to dry. Once it dries, then it should be pretty straightforward to wrap this around, trim it to these edges, and glue it down. Did put a little bit, brush on a little bit of acrylic varnish on this side to hold it down. It seems to be doing okay. Another couple coats of that will make sure that it doesn't come loose and that it stays flat. So overall, it's coming along pretty well. This piece here is going to be a little bit more difficult because there's no clothing to hide it under. So I'm going to have to start the seam in the back, wrap it around. Hopefully I can get a clean, nice clean seam around the edge, and then dealing with this bend to the bent knee is going to be a little bit difficult. I'm not sure what I can do. I'm going to do my best. Worst case scenario, it looks like this one here under his knee. I might need a little overlap or a little fold under his knee, but so far it's looking okay, I think. So we will continue. So we run into a little problem here. Overall, he looks pretty good, but some kind of chemical reaction back here or something caused this white area to develop in the back. So I've cut out the mesh, and I'm going to sand it down, repaint it, and hopefully fit a new piece in there. I was able to fit a piece on the side, which looks pretty good. I'm going to touch it up a little bit with paint so it won't be quite as noticeable, but I think I can do the same thing on this side. I think maybe it was a reaction between the CA glue and the tacky glue, or skin oils or something, although it's only in this one specific spot, so I'm not sure what caused it, but I think we can get it fixed up. Wow, that's a little bit more extensive than I had anticipated, but not good. Maybe we need to cut this whole section out. Well, see what we can do. Stand up there. Not going anywhere.
So first coat of adding these black trim and details, it's going to take several coats of this. That the black paint I had just wasn't working out very well, but it was just a little bit too thin, a little bit too much medium, but got there eventually. But it was just hard to get the paint to cover. So took several tries, but we got there eventually.